Shalom, y'all. I'm Rabbi Dan Moskovitz, Cantor Shani Cohen, Rabbi Carrie Brown. Those that are joining us online, I think you already knew that. And we're going to begin.
Ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai lai lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai lai. To that in a few minutes. Now we'll start by welcoming Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem, page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Barchuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzeitzchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
So as we welcome Shabbat, we want to invite to come up to help us with a reading and the lighting of the Shabbos candles, Marcia and Rachel and Doris. You can come right here. There's your reading.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. Kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Terrific. And now you guys can go over to the candles to light them.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. You can return to your seats. We'll continue page 130.
Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariya letzur yisheinu. Lechu neranena l'Adonai, מסור אישנו, נקדמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו, נקדמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. יאללה, 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 on the next page, Shirul Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shirul Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shirul Adonai, Baruchu Shemo, Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato, Sapru v'goyim kevodo, Bechol ha'amim nifleotav, Ki gadol Adonai, U'ulal me'od, Norahu, Al kol Elohim, Ay, 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 Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalalai, yalalai, Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalalai, yalalai, Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalalai, yalalai, Yalai, lalai, lai, Yalalai, lai, lai, ay, 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 yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Page 133, Psalm 98. Mizmor shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, kim niflaot asa, Hoshia lo yamino zroa kodshodia, Adonai Yeshuato, le'nei hagoyim gilad tzidkato, zachar chasto ve'emunato, לבית ישראל, ראו כל אפסי הארץ, את ישועת אלוהינו, הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ, פיצחו ורדנו וזמרו, יאללה, 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 try it. Yalla, la, la, yalla, yalla, la, yalla, la, la, yalla, la, la, yalla, yalla, la, 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 yalla, la. That's it. Yalla, la, 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 yalla, la, 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 yalla, la, yalla, yalla, la, la, la. The top of 134, Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor, singing praise to Adonai. Zameru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimra. Zameru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimra. Zameru, zamru, l'Adonai, zameru warmed up a little bit, brought in Shabbat, and it's now time to turn to Lecha Dodi, the peak of this Kabbalat Shabbat portion of our service. It's page 138. And this is a liturgical poem written by the 16th century Kabbalist Sholom Alkabetz. And it serves as a bridge between the end of Friday, which ended at sunset, according to Judaism, and the beginning of Shabbat, which starts right now, linking that regular or profane time of the week, Chol, with the holy time of Shabbat, Kadosh, this time of holiness. And this prayer in particular, Lecha Dodi, is seen as a wedding, like we welcome the Shabbat bride. You might have heard that. But what does that actually mean? So there's this story that Shabbat, the day, came to God one day and said, how is it possible that every day of the week has a partner except for me? Sunday has Monday, Tuesday has Wednesday, Thursday has Friday, but what about Shabbat? Shabbat's all alone. So what did God say? God responded and said, I know a partner that you can have. You can have the congregation of Israel as the partner of Shabbat. So this poem, Lecha Dodi, is supposed to reenact this mystical wedding that happens between Shabbat and the people of Israel, that's supposed to foster unity and harmony in the universe. And we have this opportunity every single week to make Shabbat a time of joy and celebration, a separate time from the rest of the week where we can breathe a little bit and create this sacred time, this time of Kedusha, holiness.
So basically you're saying that when Shabbat came on the screen, God swiped right.
We were just talking
That was
about
for you
this,
guys.
right?
That was for you. I have almost no idea
Yeah.
what that means, but a little bit.
Very good.
There you go.
Thank you.
Lecha Dodi, 138, right?
Yes.
Lecha Dodi likat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat bekavela. Lecha Dodi likat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat bekavela. Shamor vezachor bedibur echad ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shemol tiferet ve'litila. Lecha Dodi likat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat mekavela. Lecha Dodi likat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat mekavela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu belelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha Dodi likat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat mekavela. Lecha Dodi likat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat
Sabbath bride.
2, 3, 4. Lecha dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat Kabbalat. Lecha dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat Kabbalat. Verse 9. Boy v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha ubetzola toch emunei am segula boy chala boy chala.
Turn back around.
One more time all together. Here we go. Lecha dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat Kabbalat. Lecha dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 bnei Shabbat Kabbalat.
We'll remain standing. We're going to turn to page 263 for Chatzi Kaddish, and as we do, we're going to ask Jacob to come and get ready to lead the rest of our service. You'll need that prayer book, though. That's going to be kind of critical for the next part. Page 263.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועל מה דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי המיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשא בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא ואמרו Amen.
Remain standing. The Baruch Hu's on page 265. The microphone? No microphone. Okay.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated.
We'll continue reading on page 265. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv arabim, בחוכמה פותח שערים, ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים.
Page 266, Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו, ואורך ימינו, תורתך, אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Page 268, Ve'ahavta. Just a little louder, Jacob. Okay. A little louder. Go ahead. Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, וכשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוציא על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem, amen. We'll continue responsively, page 269 in the English.
We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. Page 270, Michamocha, a song of redemption.
את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. Jacob, you ran off the bima so quickly. Like, get me out of here. You did great. You were terrific. New land speed record. Page 272, Vishamru. Nope, I was wrong. Hashkivenu. Page 271.
JK. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Ufros aleinu sukat השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך.
Wasn't it nice to see the sun today? It was, I got in my car and I had to put on sunglasses. I almost forgot what they were. But sometimes I think that, in life, when we have, too much of a beautiful thing, sometimes we forget, how precious it is. And sometimes when we have a lot of rain or a lot of struggle, when we have those moments of sunshine, we appreciate them more. There's something about that contrast between the dark and the light, between the rain and the sun, and likewise between the weekday and Shabbat. That if every day were Shabbat, even though it would be really wonderful to have Shabbat all the time, it wouldn't be as sweet. And this one day a week that we have to contrast with the rest of the week, in fact, the more intentional we are about making it a contrasting day where it's not like the rest of the week, I think the more we can really appreciate it, the more that we really acknowledge what a beautiful gift it is. So let's join together as we sing this beautiful biblical passage about the significance of Shabbat V'Shamru on the top of page 272.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. Yalla da 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 da, Shabbat, Shabbat, yamba da 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 da, Shabbat, Shabbat, yalla da 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 da, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. Yamba da 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 da, Shabbat, Shabbat, yamba da 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 da, Shabbat, Shabbat, yamba da 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 da, Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
We'll rise together now for the Amidah, beginning on page 274.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'koneh hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגברות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ישועה, ונאמנת לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
Amen. Page 276.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Amen. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Amen. Please be seated. I invite you to turn to page 277 in that bottom paragraph, 3 lines down, Kadshenu b'mitzvotecha.
קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך. קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך. היי שמנו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך. שמנו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך. די 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 די
We give thanks for the many blessings of our lives as we join together in our prayer of gratitude on page 281, the middle of that page, Ve'al Kulam.
ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד, וכל החיים יודו חסלה, ויהללו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו, עזרתנו סלע. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה, נאה להודות.
We pray for shalom, for wholeness, and for peace in our world, page 282. Shalom Rav.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך,
take a moment now for the prayer of our heart, a moment of silent reflection.
Page 285. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. יאללה לי, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לי לי, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לי לי, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לי לי לי. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו
I invite you to turn ahead in our Siddur to page 371. In the middle of the page, we have a version of our Misha Berach for healing, a prayer in which we ask that God should give blessing to those who are in need of healing, whether it is physical, emotional, or any other kind of healing. We know that so many in the world are in need of healing of body and soul, and so many people we care about, even some of us here this evening. And so we hold all of them in our prayers together as a community. And I think especially of those whose names I will mention, and then I'll invite you, if there are other people you wish to include, to do so as well. We think especially the Shabbat of Mel Karp, Alicia Eckersley, Faye Manis, Maury Dozer, Avram Sudak, Rayanne Brackett, Odin Zatzik, Arnold Konevsky, Daniel Gottesman, Mark Baton, Merle Granberg, Yehudit Bat Avraham Vasara, Dennis Miller, Dina Mandel, Ralph Schulman, Basil Kalner, David Goldstein, Howard Diamond, Isabel, Judy Steiner Lossberg, Lana James, Dr. Dimitri Zanazin, Shana Stawicki, Stanford Cohen, Sarah Bat Avraham Vasara, Igor Ilyasov, Ed Ozer, David Shlomo Gorny, and Andrea Jarzbiak. Now, if there are other names you wish to mention for our healing prayer, I invite you to stand and share those names out loud at this time. Invite all of those who are at home, if you would like to add names of people you are thinking of as well, to include them as we join together in these words of Misha Berach.
Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Just want to draw your attention to the announcements for this evening. A few things to bring to your attention. On Tuesday night, Rabbi Brown and I will begin a new course we haven't taught before called Foundations for Jewish Thought. It's sponsored by the Sholom or created, I should say, by the Sholom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, which is a centrist Jewish think tank and a group of scholars that work on complex issues of Israel and democracy, as well as Judaism in the diaspora. We're going to be studying Jewish ethics as a lens through which to view our daily lives and interactions. The course is on Zoom. You can take it from anywhere, including Atlanta, at 7 o'clock. I think we have 56 people already signed up for the course, so please, if you'd like to, please join us for that. On Wednesday, November 3rd, Torah-Inspired Leadership, our study group with Jeff Balin, a past president of our congregation, a monthly discussion of Torah leadership principles applied to real-world situations. And this session is going to be based on the weekly Torah portion Toldot with a theme of the price of silence, based on the teachings of Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zikrono Livracha. On November 7th, on Sunday, the Sisterhood has their Walk in the Woods. This takes place on a regular basis, rain or shine. Come join them for a walk on the Newt Loop. I think it says tail, but I think they mean trail. It's a 50-minute walk in Pacific Spirit Park. There's other things going on, including a joint event with Beth Israel and PJ Library for our Temple Shalom youth group, BBYO Junior, where they're going to be making stuffed animals, I think, or stuffies. Stuffed bears, sorry, to give for holiday gifts. That's on November 13th, and there's more that you can read about in here. Any announcements I missed? Anything? Okay. We want to thank Jacob for leading our service this evening, and we look forward to tomorrow. The bar mitzvah tomorrow, services tomorrow begin at 10 a.m. The bar mitzvah is part of that. We want to thank Marcia for sponsoring our Oneg Shabbat tonight following our service. So a psychologist was asked by a friend, tell me, how can you listen hour after hour, day after day, week after week, to people who pour their frustrations and their tales of woe on your couch? To which the psychologist shrugged his shoulders and said, who listens? This week's Torah portion from the book of Genesis, which Jacob will read from tomorrow and teach us about, opens with the death of Sarah and with Abraham's efforts to acquire a burial place, a plot for his wife in the land of the Hittites. Abraham's a stranger in that land, a ger v'toshav, a resident alien, and has no property there. So he has to enter into negotiations with the local people, with the Hittites, so as to acquire a plot of land in which to intern Sarah. Now, a close read of the text reveals the complexity of Abraham's damaged relationship with his wife and his son Isaac. Sarah dies separated from Abraham 7 years or so in biblical counting after he took Isaac in the dead of night up to Mount Moriah to nearly sacrifice him, if we remember the story from the high holidays or just last week when we read it in Shul. And we know from tradition that Abraham and Sarah never speak again after that. We can all imagine why. We're not even sure if Isaac and Abraham ever speak again, but here he finds himself in that very human and difficult moment of needing to bury his wife to whom he is estranged. There's no mention of where Isaac is in that moment. Abraham travels without him to Hebron to bury his wife. The Torah is actually very terse. It says almost nothing about Abraham's emotional expressions regarding his loss. But it goes into great detail recording the ins and outs of the negotiation over this plot of land where he's going to bury Sarah. And so we have to ask the question, what is the point of relating all of these details of this business transaction? Is this the Torah's attempt to teach us property law or how to negotiate the sale of something in Torah? Our rabbis teach that we actually might derive some insight by paying attention to at least one of those details. After Abraham starts the conversation by asking to buy a plot to bury his wife, the Hittites respond, Shemanu, listen to us. By themselves, these words are unremarkable, but they set up a recurring motif throughout this discussion between Abraham and the Hittites. Abraham's response includes, Shemati, listen to me. Or Shemi, listen to me. And then Ephron, the potential seller, begins his words by saying, no, master, listen to me. And then again he says, but you, please, if you would, but listen to me. And my master, listen to me. And finally, the Torah reports, and Abraham listened to Ephron. Again and again, in what most commentators see as a very formalized and artificial give and take between Abraham and the locals, the appeal is made for the other side to listen to me. Did they say this because they were really worried that the other party was not listening? Maybe. Or the phrase, listen to me, it may have been a ubiquitous, as much as like when we start an email with, hi, how are you? In a conversation or emails, we don't really expect a thoughtful reply, but custom demands that we start that way. Yet even if it was mandatory custom of the time, the very decision, sometime long ago when Torah was written, to record this way of speaking even between total strangers, seems to express that even then, as it is today, the act of simply listening to one another is often lost in efficient, business-like transactional settings. What need is there to listen or to ask how another is doing when the parties know exactly what's going to happen in the course of that conversation or the response to that email? What the next steps of the negotiations are going to require. But it is included. This ancient rule of negotiating etiquette reminds us that listening, then and now, is desperately needed. This formal rule, I think, of saying, listen to me, is a quiet but stubborn resistance and protest against the dehumanizing effect of strictly transactional approaches to living with others and relationships. It reminds us that even if it will not happen during this efficient meeting, and perhaps that's exactly why, that we must be reminded in the very middle of the negotiations that we must find ways, even if it is at another time, another place, to listen to each other. Just like that opening line of the email when we ask, how are you? To disagree with the famous line from The Godfather, it's business. Yes, it's personal. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, whose Yortzeit was this past week, tells us there is something profoundly spiritual about listening. It's the most effective form of conflict resolution. Many things can create conflict, but what sustains it is the feeling that we have not been listened to, that we have not heard our pain, the other has not heard our pain. Job, who suffered so unjustly in Torah, is unmoved by the arguments of his comforters. It is not that he insists on being right. What he wants from them is for them to listen. Listening means that we are open to the other, that we respect him or her, that their perceptions and feelings matter to us. And so a good parent listens to their child. A good employer listens to their coworkers. A good company listens to its customers, and a good leader listens to those that they lead. Listening doesn't mean agreeing, but it does mean caring. Listening is the climate in which love and respect grow. Rabbi Sachs continues, in Judaism, we believe that our relationship with God is an ongoing tutorial in our relationships with other human beings, that it's the model for how we should treat others. How can we expect God to listen to us if we fail to listen to our own spouse or child or those affected by our work? How can we expect to encounter God if we never learn to listen? So my question then is, why are we not better listeners? We are so impatient, waiting for our turn to speak instead of opening up our hearts. We are so distracted, too much to do and not enough time to do it. We are so judgmental. We think we know what someone is going to say, so why bother listening? We have so many rationalizations for not giving each other the blessed gift of our full and undivided attention. Listening, writes Rabbi Sachs, lies at the very heart of relationship. Listening is the climate in which love and respect grow. Attentive listening does not mean giving advice or dismissing feelings or interrogating the other, and it definitely is not one-upping. It does mean being curious, reflective, breathing, connecting. And we've all heard this before, but have we listened to the wise advice? We have heard it, but have we listened? Rabbi Sidney Greenberg wrote years ago in the Reformed prayer book, The Gates of Prayer, the prayer book that many of us grew up with. He wrote the following: Judaism begins with the commandment, "Hear, O Israel." But what does it mean to hear? The person who attends a concert with a mind on business hears, but does not really hear. The person who walks amid the songs of birds and thinks only of what they will serve for dinner hears, but does not really hear. The man who listens to the words of his friends or his wife or his child and does not catch the note of urgency, notice me, help me, care about me, hears, but does not really hear. The person who listens to the news and thinks only of how it will affect business hears, but does not really hear. The person who stifles the sounds of conscience and thinks, I've already done enough, hears, but does not really hear. Crowds are moved by great speakers. Not this one, but other great speakers. But lives are changed by great listeners. In the end, the key to loving another person is the same as it is to loving God. We must give others the gift of our full attention. Our tradition commands us Shema. Jacob chanted it earlier tonight. We translate it incorrectly. We translate it as "Hear, O Israel." But its root meaning is not to hear. Rather, it's the higher value, the greater mitzvah. We are commanded to listen. Shema appears again as the first word in the scroll that's on the mezuzah that hangs on many of your doors. We're commanded again to listen because what follows is important, so important that we nail it to our doorposts. We know that in our homes it is not hearing that creates Shalom Bayit, peace in our homes. It is listening. Hearing simply happens. Listening, however, is a conscious choice. Listening requires concentration so that your brain processes meaning. Listening leads to understanding. Listening requires not only our ears, but our eyes, our heart, and our mind. And so, indeed, lishma nefesh, we must listen with our very soul, our complete being. Abraham, in his negotiations with the Hittites, with Ephron, it's not a lesson in how to invest in property. It's a lesson in how to invest in people. They were not from the same tribe. They were not followers of the same God, but by listening to each other, they bridged that divide. They recognized in Abraham the anguish of a bereaved husband, and he saw in them the sanctity of their land. It's been my experience in 20 plus years as the rabbinate that most people are not hard of hearing. They're hard of listening. How about you? I know I am. Shabbat Shalom. Our service is going to continue with Aleinu, page 586. Please rise.
לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגוהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Turn to page 592 for a reading before the Mourner's Kaddish. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. We share the names of those in our congregation for whom we are in a period of Shiva and Shloshim, and I invite you, if you are here to remember a loved one, to please rise as we mention their name. Fred Brower, Helene Davis, and Becky Feyerman. And we mark Yartzeit the Shabbat for Ernie Ackerman, Donald Atnikov, Ron Babbins, Moshe Bar Semach, Minnie Bellsberg, Charlotte Burks, Sadie Cohen, Daniel E. Kahn, Ben Dason, Bob Feldstein, Joyce Feinberg, Arthur Flanders, Elfrida Glantz, Richard Gottfried, Samuel Lampert, Joseph Leffert, Inez Levitz, Lee Light, Rose Mallinger, Meyer Marcus, Margaret Mason, Esther Matus, Beatrice Michaelberg, Nellie Nash, Peppy Ozier, Erica Pobog Malinovska, Jerry Rabinowitz, Eddie Reich, Ben Rosenbaum, David Rosenthal, Cecil Rosenthal, Dorothy Rowan, Penina Sagiv, Sophie Sandler Richmond, Alice Sangro, George Scholes, Judy Sipe, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Elsie Switzer, Alan Tobe, Zachary Van Zant, Melvin Wax, Delia Weissler, Ted Wilmot, Irving Younger. There are others who have come to say Kaddish who are within a year of mourning or have a name of someone you are remembering. I invite you to rise and share their name at this time. I invite all of those at home to also include the name of your loved ones out loud or in your heart. And all who are gathered here to please rise as we stand beside those who mourn and join together in these words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam al'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmed kudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shemaya. L'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be a blessing. As we say together, amen, amen. So you may be seated. We are going to join together in a closing song with Cantor Cohen, and then Kiddush and Hamotzi before our Oneg Shabbat.
ויהר ויבוקר יום השישי, ויהו לו השמיים והארץ, וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kichar b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava v'ratzon yichilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava u'ratzon hilchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
L'chaim, to life. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom services tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Torah study, 8:30 online. Join us outside in the Shalom Garden for our Oneg Shabbat, again sponsored by the B'nai Mitzvah family. Shabbat Shalom.